The late afternoon sun bathed the city park in a warm golden hue, its light spilling over the lush greenery and turning the leaves into a cascade of gold. Children's laughter echoed through the playground, blending harmoniously with the rustle of leaves and the joyful barks of dogs chasing after frisbees. Couples strolled hand in hand, their steps unhurried, savoring the peaceful moment. Among them, Lucas Morgan walked alone, his tall frame and confident stride making him stand out. A renowned architect celebrated for designing some of the city's most iconic buildings, Lucas was the picture of success. But the solitude that clung to him told another story, one of late nights spent poring over blueprints and a life devoid of deeper connections. His thoughts were interrupted by a voice. "Hey, mister!" A young boy with messy brown hair and bright eyes stood before him, grinning wide. "My mom has a picture of you in her wallet." Lucas froze, his curiosity piqued. "A picture of me?" he asked, crouching slightly to meet the boy's gaze. "Yes," the boy exclaimed, his tone matter-of-fact. "You look a little younger in it, though." Before Lucas could respond, the boy pointed toward a nearby bench where a woman sat reading. Lucas turned, and his heart skipped a beat. The woman was Emma Bennett, a face from a past he thought he'd left behind forever. Lucas couldn't move at first, his gaze fixed on Emma Bennett as she sat on the bench, completely unaware of his presence. She looked almost the same as he remembered, her auburn hair catching the sunlight, her posture relaxed, but there was a quiet strength about her now that hadn't been there before. He tore his eyes away for a moment, glancing back at the boy. "What's your name, kid?" "Noah," the boy said proudly. "That's my dog over there." He pointed to a golden retriever lying in the grass, its tail wagging lazily. "Noah," Lucas repeated, the name unfamiliar, yet somehow fitting. "And your mom, what's her name?" "Emma," Noah replied without hesitation, before tugging on Lucas's sleeve. "Come meet her. She's over there." Lucas hesitated. His mind was racing, 1,000 questions colliding at once. What was Emma doing here after all these years? And why did this boy Noah look vaguely familiar in a way he couldn't quite place? Before he could think better of it, Noah grabbed his hand and started pulling him toward the bench. Lucas followed, his heart pounding. Emma looked up as they approached, her book lowering to her lap. When her eyes met Lucas's, they widened in shock, her lips parting as though to speak, but no words came out. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, the weight of unspoken history settling between them like a thick fog. "Mom," Noah chirped, oblivious to the tension. "This is Lucas. He's the guy from your picture." Emma's expression shifted, a flicker of discomfort crossing her face as she glanced between her son and Lucas. "Noah," she began, her voice gentle but firm, "why don't you go check on Max for a bit? I'll be right here." Noah pouted but eventually relented, running off toward the dog with a loud call of, "Max, come here!" Now alone, Lucas and Emma faced each other in silence. It was Lucas who finally broke it. "Emma," he breathed, the name carrying a weight he hadn't felt in years. "I didn't expect this." "I could say the same," she replied, her tone guarded. "It's been a long time." "Yeah," Lucas agreed, his eyes flicking to the book still clutched in her hands. "A very long time." Emma stood, the book forgotten on the bench, and crossed her arms. "What are you doing here, Lucas?" she asked, her voice steady but edged with caution. "I could ask you the same thing," he countered, though his tone lacked the sharpness hers carried. "But I think I'm more curious about what your son just said." He gestured toward the direction Noah had run off in. "He says you have a picture of me." Emma stiffened, her eyes darting away. "It's nothing," she said quickly. "Just an old photo." "An old photo of me?" Lucas pressed, his curiosity mixed with disbelief. "Emma, why would you still have something like that?" She didn't answer right away. Her fingers gripped the strap of her bag, her knuckles whitening as she searched for words. "Because some memories are hard to let go of," she admitted finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas's chest tightened at her words. There was so much he wanted to ask, so much he needed to understand, but the vulnerability in her expression stopped him from pushing too hard. Instead, he softened his tone. "I wasn't expecting this," he said honestly. "Seeing you again, meeting Noah." Emma let out a shaky breath, her eyes meeting his. "Neither was I." Before either of them could say more, Noah came bounding back, his energy infectious. "Mom, Max did the trick. Did you see?" Emma smiled down at her son, her tension melting away for a brief moment. "I saw, sweetheart. Good job." Lucas watched the interaction, a strange mix of emotions swirling in his chest. There was something about the bond between Emma and Noah that was both beautiful and painful to witness. For the first time in years, he found himself wondering about the life he might have had, a life that now felt tantalizingly close, but just out of reach. Lucas couldn't shake the image of Emma standing before him, her eyes filled with unspoken emotions. As they sat back down on the bench, with Noah now preoccupied playing with Max, he turned his attention back to her. "You didn't answer my question," Lucas said softly, careful not to let his tone carry any accusation. "Why do you still have that photo, Emma?" Emma shifted uncomfortably, her fingers tracing the edge of her bag. "It's not what you think," she replied, avoiding his gaze. "It's just a piece of the past, something I never got around to getting rid of." Lucas frowned, leaning forward slightly. "That doesn't explain why you're carrying it with you. Most people don't keep old memories like that in their wallet unless they mean something." Emma's jaw tightened, and she let out a quiet sigh. "Lucas, it's complicated." "It doesn't have to be," he said, his voice steady. "You can tell me." For a long moment, Emma said nothing. She stared down at the gravel path, her expression distant, as though she were somewhere far away. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "That photo was taken during a time in my life when things felt simpler," she began. "Back before everything got so messy. I kept it because it reminded me of who I was, of what I believed in back then." Lucas studied her, his chest tightening at the vulnerability in her words. "And what did you believe in?" Emma met his gaze, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I believed in us," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I thought we had a future together, Lucas. But then you left, and everything changed." Her confession hit him like a punch to the gut. He had always known that his decision to leave and pursue his career would have consequences, but hearing it laid bare like this made the weight of it almost unbearable. "I never meant to hurt you," Lucas said quietly, his voice laced with regret. "Leaving wasn't easy for me either, Emma. I thought I was doing the right thing, focusing on my career so I could build something for us. But I see now how wrong I was." Emma shook her head, her lips pressing into a thin line. "That's in the past, Lucas. We both moved on. We had to." Lucas's eyes flicked to Noah, who was now attempting to teach Max another trick. A question burned at the back of his mind, one he hadn't dared to ask until now. "Noah," he began cautiously, his heart pounding. "How old is he?" Emma froze, her grip tightening on the strap of her bag. "Lucas, don't—" "How old, Emma?" he pressed, his voice soft but firm. She hesitated, her shoulders sagging as though the weight of her secret had finally become too heavy to bear. "He's 7, she admitted at last, her voice breaking as if each word carried the weight of a decade of silence. Lucas's breath hitched. 7. The timeline aligned uncomfortably close to when they had last seen each other. "Is he—" He struggled to find the words, his throat dry. "Is he my son?" Emma's eyes filled with tears as she looked away, her silence speaking louder than any words ever could. Emma's silence lingered in Lucas's mind long after he left the park. The weight of her unspoken answer gnawed at him, each passing moment filling him with a mix of hope, doubt, and unease. Could Noah really be his son? And if he was, Why had Emma chosen to keep it a secret? That evening, Lucas sat in his apartment, the city lights twinkling outside his window as his thoughts raced. He couldn't leave this unanswered. It wasn't in his nature. He needed the truth, even if it meant crossing lines he wouldn't normally dare to approach. The next morning, he made a call to someone he trusted implicitly, a private investigator named Victor Hayes. Victor had worked with Lucas on several high-stakes projects, discreetly uncovering crucial details others had tried to hide. But this wasn't business, it was personal. "I need you to look into someone," Lucas said, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his chest. "Her name is Emma Bennett. She has a son named Noah." Victor paused, his tone cautious. "Is this about you, Lucas?" Lucas exhaled sharply. "Yes. I need to know if there's any chance Noah is mine." Victor didn't ask further questions. He understood the delicacy of the situation and promised to be discreet. Days passed, each one dragging slower than the last. Lucas buried himself in work, but his thoughts constantly drifted back to the park, to Emma's pained expression and Noah's bright, curious eyes. When Victor finally called, Lucas's heart raced as he answered. "Noah Bennett," Victor began, his tone measured. "Born 7 years ago. No father listed on the birth certificate. From everything I can find, Emma has been raising him alone since birth." Lucas's chest tightened. The lack of a listed father only deepened his suspicions. "Anything else?" "There's nothing tying Emma to anyone else during that time," Victor continued. "If you're asking if there's a chance he's yours, Lucas, it's possible." The confirmation, though indirect, hit Lucas hard. He thanked Victor and hung up, his mind reeling. He couldn't ignore the truth any longer. He needed to confront Emma, no matter how difficult it might be. Lucas stood outside Emma's modest apartment, his heart pounding in his chest. He had rehearsed this conversation countless times in his head, but now that he was here, the words seemed to elude him. The truth couldn't wait any longer. He rang the doorbell and waited, bracing himself for whatever might come. Emma opened the door, her expression shifting from surprise to apprehension. "Lucas," she said, her voice low. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," Lucas replied firmly, though he softened his tone. "About Noah." Emma hesitated, glancing back into the apartment before stepping outside and closing the door behind her. "This isn't a good time," she began, but Lucas interrupted her. "I know, Emma," he said, his voice steady but edged with emotion. "I know, Emma. I know he's my son. I see it in his eyes, in the way he smiles." Her eyes widened, and for a moment she looked as though she might deny it, but then her shoulders sagged, the fight draining out of her. "Who told you?" she asked quietly. "It doesn't matter," Lucas said. "What matters is why you didn't tell me. Why, Emma? Did you think I wouldn't care? That I wouldn't want to be part of his life?" Emma looked away, her jaw tightening. "I didn't want to hold you back," she said after a long pause. "You were so focused on your career, on making a name for yourself. I didn't want to be the one who derailed that." "You didn't give me the chance to decide that for myself," Lucas shot back, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "You made the choice for me, and in doing so, you took away years I can never get back." Tears welled in Emma's eyes, and she wiped them away hastily. "Do you think it was easy for me?" she said, her voice trembling. "I was scared, Lucas. I was young, alone, and I didn't know how to tell you. By the time I thought about it, it felt like too much time had passed." Lucas ran a hand through his hair, pacing the small space outside her door. "You don't think I had the right to know?" he asked, his voice quieter now, tinged with pain. Emma wrapped her arms around herself, as though trying to hold herself together. "I thought I was protecting you," she said. "And Noah, I didn't want him to feel like he was someone's obligation." "He's not an obligation, Emma," Lucas said firmly. "He's my son. I missed his first steps, his first words, everything. And that's something I'll never forgive myself for, even though it wasn't my choice." Emma looked at him, her expression raw with guilt and regret. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I thought I was doing the right thing, but maybe I was just scared of what you might say, of how it would change everything." Lucas let out a shaky breath, his anger giving way to something softer, understanding. "I don't want to fight with you," he said. "I just want to be part of Noah's life. He deserves to know the truth." Emma hesitated, her gaze flicking toward the door. Finally, she nodded. "We'll tell him," she said. "But it has to be at the right time. I need to do this carefully." Lucas agreed, though his heart ached at the thought of waiting longer. As he walked away from her apartment, he couldn't help but feel that this was only the beginning of a much more complicated journey. The days that followed were both tentative and transformative. Lucas began spending time with Noah under the guise of a family friend, easing into the boy's life without overwhelming him. Emma watched their interactions closely, her initial apprehension softening as she saw the bond between them begin to form naturally. One Saturday afternoon, the three of them headed to the park. Noah ran ahead with Max, the golden retriever, laughing as the dog jumped to catch the frisbee Lucas had thrown. Emma and Lucas followed at a leisurely pace, their conversations shifting from the guarded exchanges of before to something more open and collaborative. "You're good with him," Emma said quietly, her gaze on Noah. "Better than I expected." Lucas smiled, though there was a hint of sadness in it. "He's a great kid," he replied. "I just wish I'd known sooner. I hate that I missed so much." Emma looked down, her fingers brushing against the strap of her bag. "I know," she said softly. "I made the wrong choice, Lucas. I see that now. I thought I was protecting him and you, but I was wrong." Lucas glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "What matters now is Noah," Lucas said, his voice firm yet tender. "He deserves all of us, working together to give him the best." Emma nodded, her lips curving into a faint smile. "Together," she repeated, as though testing the word for herself. Noah's voice interrupted them. "Mom, Lucas, look, Max caught it." They both turned to see the boy's triumphant grin as Max trotted back with the frisbee. Lucas laughed, his heart warming at the sight. "That's impressive, buddy," he called back, waving. Emma watched them, a flicker of hope lighting up her features. Perhaps, against all odds, they could make this work. Not perfectly, but enough. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over the park, Lucas, Emma, and Noah sat together on a worn wooden bench. Noah leaned against Lucas, holding Max's leash while the dog rested contentedly at their feet. Emma glanced at the pair, her heart full yet cautious as she took in the sight of the two most important people in her life finding their rhythm together. Lucas broke the comfortable silence, his voice low but steady. "You know, I never imagined life turning out like this," he said, glancing at Emma. "But maybe it's exactly what I needed." Emma smiled faintly, her defenses softening. "It's not what I expected either," she admitted. "But it feels right." Noah looked up, his innocent eyes brimming with curiosity. "What are you guys talking about?" "Just how lucky I am," Lucas said with a grin, his eyes softening as he looked at Emma and Noah. "To have you both." The moment felt fragile yet full of promise. They weren't a conventional family, but they were a family nonetheless. Messy, complicated, and real. As the sun set, the laughter of children echoed through the park, mingling with the distant rustle of leaves. For the first time in years, Lucas felt at peace, surrounded by love and the possibility of a brighter future.